really go into more today. So with all of that, what we want to understand is that how can the pyramids and pyramid structures and sacred sites help us and influence as well? What will we go back to the Schumann resonance, which is 7.83 hertz. The Schumann resonance is an extremely low ELF, extremely low frequency aspect of the Earth's electromagnetic spectrum. And what happens is that there is a direct and very well researched understanding between our brainwaves, the alpha brainwave state, and to the Schumann frequencies. So essentially, alpha in the alpha state, we're in deep relaxation. There's slow patterns and between 6 and 8 hertz. And so what happens is that there is a direct relationship, a resonance between our brain waves and the heartbeat of the Earth, at this fundamental heartbeat of the Earth at 7.83 hertz. And essentially what happens is that when we can get into alpha, when we get into meditative state, then we can get into deep relaxation, which is so beneficial for us. And so there's another understanding that the ionosphere, which we talked about before, creating electricity, also is like a capacitor in terms of an electrical circuit, and that's constantly maintaining that frequency. So what happens is that there is this deep, coherent state of relationship of consciousness between the heartbeat of the Earth and our own brainwaves. And so when we can build structures that are in resonance with the Earth field, with the frequency waves that happen in the ionosphere, and also with structures that are in harmony with the archetypal patterns of the universe, we can then build structures which are going to be really, really beneficial to us for higher function. Now, the thing is, I would also suggest here is that, like, you could go into this space to use it for certain periods of time for beneficial uses, but not necessarily to live in, because the frequencies are going to be too great. We want to use these momentarily, but not to live in, because because otherwise it's going to be too powerful and could then cause imbalances. We want to create balanced spaces for living in, and then we want to then create powerful spaces that we want to go into to enhance our healing and our wellness.
That's a very interesting topic for the sacred sites, because when you go to one of these places, there's been an effect that has been researched. That is, in the first 3 days, you get to feel enhanced, you feel better. During the rest of let's say for a week or so, you start to feel really tired. It's like the energy has started to, what they have measured is that they start to appear like breaches in your energy field, in your aura, because your energy is shifting so fast, it's growing so fast that your energy field is like, when you get fat and you get those kind of marks on the skin of like opening the skin. And then after a month of being there, it kind of stabilizes. And then there's a process of developing different qualities, like, for example, having visions or perceptions, or more intuitive, or more dreams, or things like that. But for the first month living there is very, very, it's a huge shift. And when you go to these power places, you find people that if they are not grounded, they kind of lose you can lose your grounding. You can actually be a little bit like lose your marbles, as you say in England. Some people get a little bit over the top. So that's very interesting, because it's not the healthiest place to live, as you were saying. There are places to go to do some work and then go and live elsewhere, and that's very important and very interesting to know.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, because it's a very high amount of charge. And it is a place of power, and so you go there, you do your work there, and whether it's a pyramid or it's a temple, and you go home, and then
exactly.
And so you don't live in the temple, you go home to a very balanced, healthy space. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So some of the effects, you've been talking about some of the things that can happen are a sense of weightlessness. Tingling sensations where the bioelectric field is being stimulated, a heat, tranquility and relaxation. As you said, greater dreams with colors, and so stimulation of the astral within the astral, and also high energy levels if they're used correctly. So also with this, with dreams, you know, it can enhance those, but I would advise not to sleep under a pyramid as well, because it's just too stimulating. So that's also important to say, as well as not living them. Let's not sleep under them as well, because when we're sleeping, the energy body's open, and it's just way too much stimulation. Okay, so I'm just going to finish on this section, which is something called the torsion field. And the torsion field is a very modern understanding of the way that the universe works at the subatomic level. So quantum physics has allowed us to look at the structure of things at a very, very small level, the level of the electron and the proton. There was research undertaken in the 1960s in Russia, in particular, where they discovered torsion waves and torsion fields, and these waves essentially were to do with the way that the molecules spin and then create a connective field. And I'm just going to read a quote here because it's quite important. Torsion fields are generated by spin or momentum, and every object produces with these waves, torsion waves. And where this electromagnetic field, there's also a torsion component. And the researchers believed that these torsion waves were the link between consciousness and reality. And they felt they were a bridge in the gap between mind and matter. And they even went as far as to believe that actually the torsion field was identical with consciousness itself. And so this is really important, because the actual in the research they found that a pyramid is actually something they call it a passive torsion generator. So the shape itself generates a torsion field just by its shape, and so this has incredible possibilities in the way that the pyramids in particular can influence the mind and consciousness. And this is the exact cause of some of those effects we were just talking about in terms of activating brain waves and dreams and the astral. And so essentially this was the group called the Gariev Wave Research Group, where they looked at torsion fields, and then they went to look at DNA. So this then is the last aspect we're going to talk about in terms of how pyramids work or potentially can work, which is that they recognized that these torsion fields related very, very closely to the way that consciousness moves and the structure of consciousness. That they looked at DNA and how DNA exists within water, and how the relationship of water, which has been shown unequivocally to have memory, and that the DNA is a template, a geometric template of consciousness. But then this torsion field essentially became essentially a modern scientific explanation of the ancient view and the ancient perception and concept of all of consciousness being called the Akashic field. And Akashic was also known as the ether field. And this is the non-local field of consciousness, which has been given many names in many traditions. So what we're looking at here is a scientific understanding of the nature of this field. And essentially, they recognized that DNA was like a quantum biological internet. And this field actually works by creating something called biophotons. So that's basically light, tiny packets of light. And this work by Fritz Albert Popp showed that all our cells generate light. We're literally the light body. We are bodies of light, and we're bodies of biophotons. And all this light information is in non-local, which means that it can exist without being impeded by distance, and holographic. So the information is the same at all scales, and so all this information communicates with each other. So what does this mean? So with pyramids, well, where we're looking at pyramids and these structures as passive torsion generators. These then have the potential to be, and most probably have also been in the past, places of the activation of DNA through utilizing sound and light. So we've talked about the different forms of waves, acoustic waves and sound, acoustic waves and electromagnetic waves, and also how that these waves relate to very particular ratios and geometries, and we're going to talk about those in a moment when we look at the Great Pyramid, but also how all of these waveforms and these torsion fields can then be utilized with the understanding of piezoelectric effects, of quartz, of stone, and also with water. So we can maybe start to see how all of these things start to come together as possible structures that can really have an effect upon our cells at the level of the DNA, our activation of our energy bodies, of our pineal glands, and really have the possibility of being able to be spaces that can really advance our bodies and our consciousnesses without the use of high technology, of digital technology. Here we have a complete system of utilizing the Earth as a living conscious being, as a universe, as being a living conscious universe that's connected instantaneously through life force energy, and all we're using is stone and natural materials and geometry and sound and harmonics, which is what we're built of. So I think we have a very, very advanced system, which I believe that we can utilize this, and then as a way of working directly and naturally with the Earth and the universe and ourselves, without having to put chips in our bodies, because I don't think that's really necessary. Which is where there's the whole modern technology movement is going. I think we have an amazing advanced technology here.
Exactly. I want to add that ancient civilizations like that is being called Atlantis, and all those ancient ones that actually Egypt is heir of, has inherited all that knowledge, and all of us afterwards. They didn't have microchips and things like this, but they knew about how to use earth energies, geometry, frequency, sound. As you are talking, it's a huge technology that is available for us everywhere. It's free, and it interacts with our consciousness to manifest things, to create things, to change the the gravitational field of things, our own gravitational field. And as you were saying, distortion and this geometry and this movement and these things activate our DNA that is so connected to our Merkaba, which is our energy body that moves around and moves us into space. So we are really, we are technology. If we look at it that way, we're natural technology, and we're discovering that natural technology again, which was known before. And it seems that it's an ancient thing, but it's actually so new because we have forgotten. And so I think that's very important, because we are being also kind of induced to think that technology is AI, and that if we lose that, we're going to be disconnected. And we're so trained to think about technology in those modern ways. And I think there are so many other ways of discovering that interconnection, that ability to communicate in different ways, and also having that communication, like developing different abilities of our mind that have been slept for years, for hundreds of years. So I think that's very important. So thank you for bringing this, because I think this this slide is like amazing for me. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I think this is the one, and I think this where the research is going and where we can all experience this and we can all bring this into our lives. This is the one where we can really enhance our lives. And I think, and as you said, with the recognizing that we're part of a living universe, and then we have all the tools we need. It's just about going there and then connecting. So this is incredibly exciting, because all is now coming available to us again.